What's up, YouTube? It's Dave from Dave vs. Axie. So the goal of today is we're finally at breeding part 3. And I'm so excited to dive in and teach you some of the methods that I use when it comes to breeding. Now, some things I'll kind of pre-qualify here. Make sure you always do your own numbers. This is not necessarily financial advice. Make sure you're doing your research and what are the best Axies. I've given you a lot of tips through the first 2 parts to help you make those better decisions. However, when it comes to this is just how I'm doing my breeding farm. There are multiple different ways you can go through and do it, but you always want to make sure you're doing a cost analysis on how much SLP your cost is, your cost on AXS, access, and if you're buying parents or breeding them, what's kind of the cost basis on selling them at 0 breeds versus selling them at 4 breeds, 2 breeds, what the babies kind of could go for in the market if you sold them at 0 breeds if they came out bad. You should always do your research on all of that. But with that said, we're going to dive in today. We're going to go through the ABCD method, and we're going to talk about a trick that I use to start a lot of my farms, which is a 3-breed parent trick that's proven to be very cost effective, if not profitable, to actually start your breeding farm initially. So we're going to kind of go out and initially begin by the theory of breeding. So we're going to try to walk this through relatively quick, but also very straightforward. So these circle bubbles are going to be axes. So 1, 2, and 3 are going to be your initial 3 parent 0 breeds. So there's going to be the 3 axes you're going to start out with that are going to start your breeding farm to get everything going. So parents 1 and 2, they're usually going to be your best ones, are going to breed out 4 times to create the ABCD. So those will be your 4 offspring Axies. Once you've bred them and once they've kind of hatched, so 5 days later, you're going to take your 2 parent Axies that are already bred now 4 times, and you're either going to sell them if you're going for profit, but if you're going for scholarships, those 2 can kind of go to your scholarship pool. And that'll be at the basis of what you're going to have for scholars. So typically what I've tried to run at the very beginning is I did a plant, beast, bird start just because it was an easy build for me that I knew really well and I knew what the best cards were going to be for it. But you can do whatever you want. Some people start plant double aqua, some people start plant, reptile, beast, some combo that. Whatever team you want to make, you can make for scholarships. But if you're just going for profit, it doesn't really matter what combination of Axies you're doing as far as the totality of breeding. The only thing I'd suggest, obviously, through the whole breeding video is that you're keeping your like types together. So if you don't just breed a reptile with a bug, wouldn't make a ton of sense unless you're going for a specific build or trying to get certain cards over there. So the 2 parents, 1 and 2, are going to become our first pool of scholarship Axies, or sold based on your goals. Then we're also going to take the worst of the 2 born Axies. So in this example, I took C and D, and those are going to be sold on the marketplace. Now the goal when you're selling these 2 Axies is to get enough revenue back that you can buy the amount of AXS and SLP needed for the next breed that you're going to do later on that day. And so we'll kind of go through that too. But the goal is that you want to be able to recycle those 2 worst Axies for enough revenue that you can then go buy the SLP and access needed to continue your farm. So right now it's about 0.8 Ethereum just as a current state, but you can always do the math too, like how much SLP, how much AXS do you need, and we talked about it in prior breeding videos. Calculate that out for how much you need to sell those 2 for roughly, and that will kind of be your break even. Because if you're able to do that on those, then to breed those 4 eggs is basically free and potentially profitable if you can sell those 2 bottom Axies for more than the input costs to do your next breed. And that's really your goal when running a breed farm. And then we're going to keep our 2 best, so we're keeping A and B. So now what we end up doing here is we just kind of recycled and replaced. So we talked about we put 1 and 2 into scholarship or sold. The worst 2 of the babies and offspring, once they've hatched, we sold those to buy more AXS and SLP. And then we're going to breed A with parent 3. Then we're keeping B at the bottom, as you can see, as a reserve, and that's going to be what will be used for the offspring of A and 3. And so what we do from here is we're going to take our to breed the best offspring. So typically your number 1 overall Axie you're going to breed with the 3rd parent, and then you're going to breed that 4 times again to do the exact same thing. And then B is kind of held in that reserve spot, as I mentioned. That'll be bred with one of the offsprings, E, F, G, or H. And so then this is just on repeat from here on out. So now you have, this is now on that 5th day, you would have done that next breeding as long as you had the access and SLP needed. But now 1, 2, 3, and A are all in the scholar or sold pool. Your worst offspring from that breed, which is when we took G and H, are now in the sold to buy more AXS and SLP, which you would then sell those to bring in this next breeding portion. E is going to be bred with B, and then F is now in the reserve, and this will now breed out I, J, K, and L, and then this can be done forever, for as long as you want. It's really, you have to make sure it's going to be profitable, that you can usually sell that worst offspring. So one of the caveats I'm going to say here that's important to note is whenever you're picking your parents, you really should have those parents be close to 95% plus in the purity category. If they're not 95% plus, you start to run a lot of risks as far as how the offspring are going to turn out with mutations, and you run a much higher risk, obviously, of getting more off genes into the dominant side. So especially if you're breeding to pure, this can be definitely a challenge. But you also want to evaluate what we talked about in prior videos. What are you okay with in your dominant genes and what are you not? So like for an aqua, you might be okay with cuckoo, or you might be okay with cupid, but you're not okay with herbivore or something like that, or pumpkin. So it's really up to you to kind of analyze and evaluate that as far as exactly what you're okay with when you're going through to breed that next pool of 4 Axies. And if you've seen some other videos, like there's a great video from Elijah and Whoop-De-Doo, you can run other analysis to find out the actual most profitable position to breed more and do more. The only caveat I'll say there that kind of came out from the video that I would also call out too is that there is also an opportunity cost, because if you breed that 5th breed, that takes a lot more SLP. That you might be able to breed 2 or 3 other Axies for that same amount of SLP. So if you're on a tighter budget, this seems to be the most cost-effective way for me that I've been able to breed now consistently, kind of through the high times, the low times. This is what I've been doing now for about 2.5, 3 months. And so again, hope that's really helpful in what you're going to be doing. So yeah, so we can just keep repeating forever. And now what we're going to go through, this is kind of my method as to how I'm starting my farm. So I just did this on a stream. I did 3 of these 5 on a stream, and so we can go back, you can watch them on my Twitch. Ultimately, though, I'm going to run through exactly why I did what I did, and what my decision was to kind of start this aqua farm. So to be clear, I started this aqua farm with nothing. I didn't have, I had no parents, I had no babies, I had nothing to start out with a 0 breed. So I started to do initially my kind of what I call the 3 breed parent trick. And really what that is right now in the economy, and this is very hinging on how the Axie economy lives. The Axie economy right now doesn't have a true balance for usually like 3 to 5 breeds have very bad pricing parity. And what I mean by that is that the cost to breed the next Axie on a 3 breed versus a 5 breed is significantly different. But for the quality of Axie, they're about the same price. And you can find deals on that where you can find a 3 breed that's around 94 to 99% for around the same cost as a 4 breed, and then from a 4 breed to a 5 breed, same thing. And so when you're analyzing and looking for these Axies that are going to be in this deal range, it might take time. Like you might only be able to find 2 or 3 in a day. So take your time. Don't just buy it because it is the cheapest one. But if it's 0.05 or 0.06 ETH beyond the floor of where those 3 and 4 breeds live, just be careful and cognizant around it. So what we're going to go through in these next kind of 5 slides is we're going to show you how these Axies I bought them all as a 3 breed, and then I bred them once together, 2 of them. So they both became 4 breeds, and then I resold those on the market. And you'll see how little I actually lost or actually made money on one of them, even though I bred it. And that's kind of the goal. So most of these I'm actually able to resell at the exact same cost I bought them at. And I even put the numbers in here so you can go back and check the transaction history to prove it. But the only thing I really lose mostly on is the fee I have to pay to Sky Mavis once it's sold, which we all know is a 4.5% fee. So I'm calculating everything into this to show you kind of what is worth it versus not. So for these 2 parents, you can see this one was a 94%. If we look at cuckoo, was the thing I was okay with. So to me, and I have this circled at 97%. That means it's my implied purity. Because for me, if I got cuckoo, I'd be totally fine with it, and I'd actually breed into another style. But I wouldn't use it for a pure aqua team. But it'd still be a fine thing that I'd be okay with that Axie, and value it more. So to me, I was fine with it. Ended up being about 97%. My goal in the market normally is 97% plus when doing this trick because it just gives you the best chance to get a pure Axie. And the flip cost on this was 0.018 ETH. So I lost a little under 0.02 ETH between buying it and selling this. The one over here, this is 96%. Again, Cupid was kind of okay to me just because it kept my speed the exact same. And so that put this in my implied purity at 99%. And then the flip cost for me here was 0.024. So in total, I used a little over 0.04 or 0.042 ETH to take these and resell them. So that was just kind of the expense there. But I bought them as 3 breeds, sold them as 4 breeds, and that's kind of the big difference. So in this spread out, this guy 106.2990 that came out as a 92%. Which Cuckoo was okay with me, so it was implied 95. However, it still was 92, so I ended up not keeping him for my aqua farm. So I sold him at 0.2851, which was about my total input cost at the time. So that was the input cost for the SLP, the access, and the flip cost on these, and the sale with the Sky Mavis fee. I broke even on my actual cost on that Axie. So from the risk perspective, what we really want to call out is that instead of just buying a zero breed, which at the time the zero breeds were around like 0.4 to 0.5 ETH, just for any real zero breed within the aqua market, I was able to spend 0.285 that I could then resell it as a zero breed, which I sold. If I'm reselling them, sell them as a zero breed, and I was able to break even on it, even with not the right Axie for me. So that's kind of the difference that I wanted to discuss. All right, so this is the second breed I did, and so I took this guy. He was 99%, so he was pretty good across the board. And I always look at all the body parts that I'm searching there too, like am I happy with all of those? So this one in particular, I didn't really want catfish as my main, but everything else looks really good. So I was able to flip him at a loss of 0.033 ETH. The other guy over here was a 97%, and I was able to flip him for 0.014 ETH. So again, around 0.04, but ended up being 0.047 for these two. And one other thing I want to call out when you're doing this, the more time you have, so if you have a little bit more money to wait on that you don't need the ETH of these guys selling to go buy your next two to kind of two parents to kind of flip. You can be a little more patient. You can probably get more in the market than what I did. For these, I actually flipped some of these within 10 minutes. So I bought them, bred them, resold them within 10 minutes just to show my stream at the time how fast you can kind of go through and cycle these out and switch them. And so then the output was this actually in the bottom was 94%. Again, I'm trying to say about 95% plus at true purity. So I was able to sell him at 0.321, so it's a profit of 0.03 ETH. And that is after the loss on these two parents too. So with the last Axie, I broke even. This Axie, I made 0.03. So right now, I've bred twice for a chance to get a really pure, good aqua. And I've now been able to breed twice, and I'm up 0.03 ETH in profit. So just know too. And it's not Axies I actually wanted in the end. So the first two were profitable on. All right, now we have the third parents kind of batch. So same story. We have a 97% here. I was kind of okay with Hungry Bird too, so kind of implied might be closer to 100, but I left it at 97 just for showing it. And then this guy over here is 98%. And again, I was okay with Axie Kiss, so I put him at kind of 99 implied. And similar cost structure. So it cost me 0.046 for this one to flip those out. So again, it's always pretty much under 0.05 that I'm able to get those in. So that's kind of an input cost additional to just the breeding cost. But we're still in a position where we're able to make money, and that's kind of the point behind it. And so you'll see down here, what came out was a 92%, which again, I normally want 95, but I was okay with Axie Kiss, Unco, and Hungry Bird as it came into the Axie, so my implied was 99. And why I'm okay with that is because Hungry Bird is going to maintain speed. Axie Kiss is going to give me a beast card to help take down plants and reptiles. And Unco is something I was actually okay playing with because for AQUAs, they're one of the fastest in the game. So if you put Unco onto the plant in front, then your next two Axies, whether it be a plant or beast or whoever the other two Axies are, if they're slower than your Aqua, they get to attack the next person. When you use Unco in a turn, which is kind of a cool thing. I haven't been able to try out yet, so I was okay with it. Ultimately, though, the final cost on this breed was 0.233 for a zero breed, which at the time, as I said, like a zero breed was at least 0.3, probably up to 0.35 for a good one. And so this was 92%, probably would have cost around 0.35 to 0.4. So I saved 0.17 to start the farm. So I kept him, and he was going to go into the farm as well. The fourth one that we did, so again, over here, 95% was the true purity. Hair I was okay with, which then brought my implied purity to 98%. Cost is 0.017. And then this guy over here was 98%. Again, okay with Arco. And I was actually okay with Curly too, so my implied over here was 100%. And then the cost on these two was a little bit less at 0.31 of my added cost that goes into my breeding calculation. And then what came out was this guy. So this was 98%. Again, I'm okay with Curly, so my implied is 99, and my final breed cost on him was 0.253. So again, we're way below the market for a zero breed, in which you check right now. I checked yesterday to get to a 95% pure aqua from the floor. It's about zero point 0.2 Ethereum, so 0.20 Ethereum, or about $400 more expensive for a 95% aqua than just the floor aqua. So that's a massive gap that I don't think people actually recognize. And so this is a way to get a chance at a much purer Axie. So you see I did it 5 times to be able to get my 3 starting parents. And even the one I did from before, this one right here, you can see in the bottom, he actually is 92% at true purity. So it's not even that I got that great of an Axie. I just saw potential in the breeding potential that I wanted to roll with. And we'll go through what those offspring kind of look like in a second. And so then this is my 5th Axie that I was able to do. I just did this one the other day. So I was able to get a 98% aqua on the top side and 97% on the right side. And you can see this one actually sold for 0.008 ETH as a loss, but then this one on the right came up at a positive at 0.007. So I lost 0.001 ETH, which is negligible at the end of it. And it came out as a 96% Axie. And so the final cost there was 0.253 for that zero breed as well. So we're seeing that we're spending a lot less on zero breeds that ended up becoming pretty pure to kind of start an aqua farm and test it out. And again, the knowledge there too is that if I were to just breed 4 and they didn't come out good, I should be able to sell all of those for more than my input cost between the parents and the offspring if I were to sell everything. Ultimately, these 3 parents turned into scholars because I'm right now making scholars versus just selling the parents off. All right, so similar model to what I showed you from before, but this is just kind of like the real life example that I just wanted to run through so you could see it. So we have the zero breed parent 1 up top and zero breed parent 2. On the offsprings, we got out A, B, C, and D. And then we have parent 3 kind of in the reserve on the right-hand side. So this is just a real life example to see how those actually came out. And we can look at mutations if you want, but you can assess whatever you want in this whole thing. But ultimately, we did the 92% with the 98%, and what ultimately came out, we did get Axie Kiss in a dominant once. So again, it's kind of a unique build. I'm testing it right now. I don't know what to do with this Axie. I might just sell it. But right now I'm testing it. B came out fantastic. So B is a 97% with all 3 are bird cards, which is also, again, nice because I know I can maintain speed with whatever those offspring come off as. C and D, C came out quite good too with Hungry Bird and Unco again, but Beetle Spike is not the ideal. And then D, so that actually ends up being 91%. And this one on the right ends up being 95% with Pincer, Beetle Spike, and Cattail. And so ultimately, I only got one that didn't have a dominant 6 out of 6 aqua. The other 3 are 6 out of 6 aqua in the dominant, which we know sells for a little bit more normally than just a kind of a beast card in that aqua pool. And so what I was able to do from here is I'm going to take B. So we can check here too what I actually did with them. So we got Scholar sold these top ones. These 3 would go into reserve, and then the best Axie B I bred with the parents. Now the only reason I didn't sell A, C, and D is because with mutations, one thing that I've changed in my breed farm, this is kind of a not more advanced tip, but this is just definitely a tip to help people that are starting out a breed farm. I'm actually putting all of those into reserve if you can afford it. Maybe you just sell your worst if you need money for SLP or access. But I'm putting all of them in the reserve in case I get some crazy mutation that I don't want. So while I do have a 97% in B that's going to breed with the 95% over here, there still is a risk I'm going to get some bad mutations that could make them really unpure, or I could get a bunch of R1s or R2s that go into dominance, and then again, it might mess up my breeding pool for the future. So in case that happens, that's why I'm keeping all of A, C, and D just to see what happens, because none of them are necessarily terrible. I probably don't want to breed the A and C. Those, if on a normal build, those 2 would be the ones I sell. However, for this one, I'm keeping them all to kind of initially start. And so we'll show the same kind of setup that we're looking at here. So B and 3 bred together. So that was able to get us kind of B3, A, B, C, and D. So those are still hatching. So it's kind of at the time of this video, those are still hatching. We'll open them in the next few days on a stream, I'm sure. And then we'll see the reserves on the left. I even call out, I will breed 1 to 2 times with B3 Axies or B3's babies. Others will sell, and then I will repeat it from there as long as the aqua Axies that are eggs right now come out very pure. And so that's kind of the method that I use across the breeding that I really wanted to call out. That's the kind of the 3-breed trick, and you can see my input cost is significantly less than what most people are able to spend when it comes to 0 breeds. This is definitely especially helpful when there's a big gap between what the 0 breeds cost and a 3-breed costs. The biggest checkpoint you need to make sure of is, does your 3-breed sell for around the same price as a 4-breed on the exact same build? So when you're going through and looking at it, you do want to make sure that you're comparing all of those, which we'll check real quick just to kind of show you what that might look like. So now we're in the marketplace, and what we're looking at right now is just Aqua 3 breeds and lower. And so I'm going to identify a few quick ones. I'm just going to go through a very popular kind of build base. And so what we have here in search, we have Aquas, 3 breeds and lower. I have Nemo, Koi, Shoal Star, and Goldfish. And you can add other things in here too. Like we could add Aranda, would be fine as well. I just didn't control the mouth. But Shoal Star normally will be a little bit cheaper as well. So what we're going to look for here is 95% plus. And that is a good starting point for us to kind of evaluate, like, do we want to try that 3-breed trick? And I'll show you what the 4 breeds will go for too on these exact same builds. And I'll show you how close that can be, that you can minimize kind of the input cost from those parents. So right now we have a 96%. This one is Silent Whisper and Scaly. So great. It's a good buy. The only risk there is the anemone in the middle on the R1 with Goldfish. Otherwise, it's probably worthwhile. We have this guy here with Aranda, so he is 96% as well with 4 R2s. So he has Aranda, double Goldfish, double Nemo, triple Piranha, all great. So like another good opportunity to start an Aqua Farm off with him. This one's 95% with Scaly Spoon, Little Owl, Eggshell. But again, on the bottom we have Nemo, Navaga, Nemo. So we wish it didn't have Navaga. That's not my preference, but it's okay because we do have double Nemo in there. But then it has double Risky Fish, triple Goldfish. So all those are good things to look at and evaluate. So there's 3 of them there. A 4th one here that's 95% with Kestrel, Axie, and Neo. And I would probably say too, Kestrel's okay and Axie is okay to test out. The only downside of this one is the teal shell in R2, which again is probably not the ideal if you're going for an attack-based Aqua. And that's just the first page. So we have 4 on the first page, right? And they start at 0.2291 and go up to 0.238. So the max is 0.238 for 4 of them. And so we're going to change this here to 4 breeds. And we can actually see, so now in 4 breeds, you see a ton with really high purity. So we have 95, 98, 95, 99, 95, all at 0.28. And so we just had looked at the 3 breeds. The top was 0.238. And so your max down is going to be 0.01. Now you have to calculate into the 0.045% or the 4.5% feed to Sky Mavis. So you will eat a little bit more than that, but that's kind of the goal, is around 0.02 being around your max. And again, the longer you can wait, the more likely you're going to be able to sell that at a slightly higher price. But you can see that price disparity, and you can even see here, like we have a 98% here in a 4 breed, we have a 96% in that 3 breed, which is one of our entry point ones that we had from a 3 breed perspective. And so that's really what you're looking for when you're going through shop in the marketplace. I don't want to dive too deep in this because we've already talked about this a little bit before, but these are the great opportunity in some of the market disparity that there's opportunities to find these deals that you can buy these 3 breeds for around the same price as a 4 breed, breed them, and then resell them for right around the same exact pricing. So that kind of wraps up the breeding series. I'm releasing this video today. It's Monday, July 19th. I'm actually going to release it in about an hour or two. I will be on stream tonight on Twitch. So if you haven't followed me on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/DaveVsAxie. I will be talking a lot about this breeding video and breeding series, help answering any questions you guys might have tonight. So if you do have questions, hop on the stream. We will be live tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, so 8 p.m. Central where I am. And if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, if you like the series, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, ask me any questions in the comments too. I try to get to those every few days. And if you have any suggestions for future videos, make sure you let me know. I'd love to help cover a topic that you might want to discuss in the future. The next one I right now have on my plan is going to be covering how to build a team. So like what's the best way to look at a team and how to build a team from scratch. So we'll cover that in the next video. Otherwise, guys, have a great rest of your day. Happy new week, and enjoy an Axie Infinity. Catch you guys later. Peace.